Give your projects a friendly jolt in Slack.
What's up, Tom? Doing good, actually. Yeah, just it's another Saturn day. Gonna try to stream about, I don't know, an hour maybe of Last Gladiators, because I'm behind on our monthly challenge. I gotta get caught up. Let me see here. If I can get share this out in the all right. I'm gonna share this out in Discord as well. I'm gonna share. Hey Fart, how's it going? Fart Daily. Oh, Robo Dave. Let's fix that before we. There we go. Hey Emerald, how's it going? Emerald. If you're not talking, I guess just turn off your mic, maybe? I don't... Because there's noise coming through. Anyway. Fart Daily says, this game has gotten me into pinball. That's awesome. That's totally the point of these community challenges, is to try to like get folks into Saturn games that they haven't played or haven't really given much of a chance. So all right, somebody needs to be muted. So for folks who don't know, the month of May is the Last Gladiators Necronomicon Digital Pinball Community Challenge. And folks have been really off to a great start with this. I mean, a lot of folks are scoring in like the 2 to 3 billion range on some of these, both Last Gladiators and Necronomicon. Ooh, there we go. I have a lot of catch up to do. Don't plan on coming in anywhere close to first. I just want to get a score up on the board so I can at least say that I tried. Tom says he doesn't have this game, otherwise he would join. Tom, do you have an ODE? Just curious. I do own I own a US long box of this, but I don't actually own the, what is it? I don't own this version 9.7. Damn it. I need to not talk and actually focus on the gameplay. That's the rough thing about streaming. All disc at the moment. Okay, yeah, we definitely need to get you on a, we definitely need to get you on an ODE so you can join in the fun. Then again, if you do you have like a pseudo Saturn cart? That's the other question I would ask. Can you pause? You can. Okay, let me check who's making all the noise in Discord. Somebody's mic is just feeding noise. Is that Con? Is that Chronolay?
Hey, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Dave.
It's okay.
Is it feeding noise now?
Yeah, well, it just sounds like you were bumping around. But if you're talking, that's fine. It's just if folks are just making noise in the Discord, then it's better to just mute their mic. But you're not making noise now, so that's good.
Okay, I may just join the YouTube channel later and be silent.
Oh, are you in like a car or something like that? I can hear some...
Yeah.
Ah, I got you. You're in your car. Yeah,
yeah, I'll just join the YouTube channel afterwards.
Okay, well, feel free. If you got a set of earbuds or something like that, sometimes when I'm in my car, will try to use earbuds just for...
Well, I am in earbuds right now.
Oh, you are in earbuds. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was just when you connected, it was making noise. You're not making noise right now, so feel free to hang out if you want.
Okay, well, if it becomes a problem, just let me know. I'll disconnect.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Emerald was making a bunch of noise, but I don't even know if he knew his mic was on, because he wasn't saying anything. Yeah, so Tom, I cannot look at the comments right now, but if you grab like a pseudo Saturn cart and you just burn yourself a copy of the game on a CDR, you'd be good to go. Good old archive.org, It's funny, like this game kind of gets touchy with you when you use tilt, when you like tilt the machine, but at the same time it allows you to do it. So it must be there for a competitive reason. It's just you have to be very careful about how much you do it. Otherwise, it will actually penalize you. I bet, you know, Double Dime could just totally school me on this whole thing. If I had,
you don't know what tilting is?
No, I know what tilting is, and I know that you can use it to a certain degree. But I haven't figured out with this engine like how much you can use it before you get in trouble. You know, like I can use it to a degree, but if I use it too much, then it'll say tilt.
Then it locks the board, right?
It locks the board, and you'll basically lose control. Yeah, so
just like you would an actual board.
Right.
Yeah. You'll get a sense of it eventually. It's not difficult.
I got you. Okay. Any pro tips? Like when it comes to like choosing between like the different options on this board, is there like one option that's better than another in terms of score? It flashes up so quickly. Okay, 6 more. Gladiators for multi-ball. Okay, so basically I'm working my way up to the multi-ball. 5 more. Okay, so every time I hit a ball into the Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean the goal. I mean what the table wants you to do is work toward wizard mode, which is the final mode. I mean you can see between what the fuck do they call them? The bumpers on either side.
Yeah.
I forget what they're called. I'm not like a pinball expert or anything.
Yeah, neither am I at all.
But I do love this game. I played the crap out of it. So you'll see like there's lights. There's a set of 9 lights there. Once you've lit them all up, then you unlock the wizard mode, and that's the final mode, and it's supposed to be worked the most. But there are a couple other modes that you could exploit pretty heavily, from what I remember, that are actually better than the wizard mode.
I gotcha. So like when the ball goes up into those little bumpers up there, the red bumpers at the top left, do you want to use tilt there, or like in what scenario would you actually want to use tilt to your advantage?
You don't want to tilt. That's the penalty. What you're doing is nudging the table.
Right, you're nudging the table.
If you nudge it too much, you'll tilt.
You'll tilt. Okay, so in what case do you want to use that nudge feature?
When you don't want the ball to fall into the hole on the left or right hand side, sometimes
or straight down the middle. Yeah, you don't want to drain. You want to keep if you know you're going to drain, then you want to start nudging.
I gotcha. Okay.
And sometimes nudging up there when it's up near the jet bumpers, the round ones that you were talking about, can help keep them up there, but it's no guarantee.
This is great information from somebody who.
It's more for survival. It's more for survival than to actually increase your score per se, as Emerald was saying.
Yeah.
I'm not Emerald.
Oh, that's that's Saturn Memories. I finally recognize his voice now. I can tell you guys apart. I used to confuse Trekkies with Saturn Memories, and I think I got you both now, like where I can just tell who's talking.
I come across different on whatever mic I'm using too. Sometimes a really crappy mic will sound a lot different than a good one.
Yeah, no, you have a good radio voice. I remember you saying you're like, oh, I don't sound good. I don't sound good on a podcast or on a radio or whatever. I think you have a better radio voice than I do.
Really? Because I really think my voice kind of sucks.
Oh no, man, you're articulate. It's always better. Like it's funny. I always think like it's ironic that I got involved with a podcast, because I am like one of the most inarticulate sons of bitches. But because I'm always like grasping for like the right words that I actually want to say. Like I've got a bunch of stuff going on up here, but I just Sega Lord X, he does not what's that called where you stall for time or whatever? Like he doesn't do that at all. He like has a thought and he says it clearly, like from start to finish. I'm like, how do you do that? You just like you don't need a script or anything. You just have something to say and you say it. No,
I just remember I've done like a podcast of a friend. I've done Sam's back when he was doing it for the
right.
I think for the Junkyard.
I remember
a lot of me just stammering and stuttering and
really?
ums and uhs and yeah. Sam said he took like a shitload of time just editing.
That's just the case. Yeah, well, that's just the case.
To get all the ums and uhs out, and it's like, yeah, I'm kind of like that. So
that would be no exception and whenever I edit a podcast, I pretty much take care of that stuff all around, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you Trekkies, you guys are pretty articulate.
Dave, did you guys mention the 29th anniversary of the U.S. Saturn today yet? Did I miss that?
No, you did not miss that. So I woke up this morning, had a bunch of chores to do, then I had to bring my son to a math placement test because he's going into middle school, and so he placed 8th grade level, so that's cool. He's going to be in a more advanced math class, but and then I had to do some laundry, and I figured I'd stream this. I have got several responsibilities this weekend. One is record voice lines for the Sega Rally video that Nick is working on. I recorded some lines, but I guess they were the wrong lines. So yeah, now I got to record my lines again. And I also have to do several other things. Getting a score on the board for this challenge is one of them, because I'm a good week and a half behind on this, so figured I might as well stream it since it's Saturday, and
it's the anniversary.
And it is the anniversary, that is correct. 29th anniversary of the Saturn's failure. Right?
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I'd mentioned it to you before, and I think I'm going to try to speak this into existence, but I feel like we should celebrate next year, the 30th, and try to do a get together in San Diego.
That would be cool. We could do that. I'm down. We're probably gonna do something really special for the 30th. With the Sega guys, Mel, SHIRO, perhaps even bring Sam out of retirement. Saturn memories. I'd love to do a big collaborative video where we just kind of speak our thoughts and memories on Saturn and do something special for it.
Hey Dave, it's Dan. Do you want me to post your video on the website?
You can if you want. I was going to do it later.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't have to be.
You were just talking about how busy you were.
Well, this is part of it. Neither of us have played this game, and I'm like, I need to do this. I need to do Nick's lines. I need to get that article up on the website. It's already
Pinball a little bit, but it was on Emulators, so I couldn't post my score.
Was it on SSF?
No, I didn't try on SSF. I was playing on BizHawk the other day.
Oh, I got you. How are you doing, by the way? Happy Saturn Day.
I am good. Happy Saturn Day to you too.
Yeah.
I celebrate by not doing anything with Saturn yet. I was playing PSO2 and taking screenshots earlier. Just having fun.
You and PSO2, that is your jam.
I can't stop.
I'm sure that there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's PSO2, for goodness sake. But you're you go hard on PSO2.
I mean, there are people who go harder. I mostly just keep up with daily quests and stuff.
Yeah.
Occasionally have fun taking screenshots to post online.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I did download pretty much all of the earlier versions of SSF that are on Shima's GitHub earlier today to check them out. What's funny is one of the versions, when I went to actually run the SSF.exe, my antivirus, which is AVG, freaked out, put it in quarantine, wouldn't let it go, and reported it to AVG HQ.
Really? That was
yes.
That was what now? That did that?
One of the earlier versions of SSF from a few years ago, one of the preview versions. Yeah, AVG totally freaked out, and it gives you an option false positive. So I did, and I wrote in the notes this is a Sega Saturn emulator from a longtime developer. I got this directly from his GitHub. It's not a virus.
Right.
So I even tried to like unzip, to like restore the exe,
right.
and like it's still there was some kind of a hold on that exact spot of that file, and it would not let me unzip the exe anymore.
You could whitelist it. You can whitelist it in the antivirus settings.
I tried. I did
really?
that. Yeah, it still would not let. So what I had to do is I deleted the whole folder, rebooted my computer, turned off AVG, said, just go away. I don't need you. I will take my chances. And then I re-unzipped it, SSF, and then I ran it just fine. Surprise, surprise, my computer is not virused. But yeah, doing all that, I found that that like option to just like easily open up a Q file seems like it was added in like June of 2021, so several versions ago.
Okay, well then, yeah, that means I've been sleeping on it. I haven't really used SSF for a while. Haven't really needed to, but yeah, I didn't realize I was so far behind on that feature. Because like for the longest time, it's been a pain in the butt having to like mount the images. I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm not like, but I mean, it's definitely a quality of life that most emulators ought to have.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's interesting is I said something about all this stuff in the show channel, the show discussion channel, and Mr. Fredrickson said he's always been able to just mount game images with the Q. He's been using the Q file for a decade, so I don't know what's up with that.
Some mounting software doesn't like to mount Q images for whatever reason. I found, like, for the longest time was using alcohol to do it. That was the one thing that seemed to work with it 100% of the time.
Hey, Chrono, if you want to just like mute yourself when you're not talking, that'll be fine. Oh, was that you just talking right now? Okay.
No, that's Saturn Memories.
Oh, okay, that was Saturn Memories. Yeah, so I can hear like the freeway noise coming through pretty loud. But when you talk, it's gated out. So like if you're gonna say something, you could unmute. But if you're gonna, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so like if you're not talking, then just mute your mic, and that way it's not, the freeway noise won't be so loud. Dude's joining us in a car on the freeway. That is dedication right there. I mean, we're in
make it work.
We're in California. We are commuters. We drive.
I'm actually commuting to go cover a shift at my friend's video game shop up in Yuba City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, Yuba, nice. I used to go cliff diving in Yuba.
Oh, yeah, all the way up here?
Oh yeah, I grew up in Reno, Nevada, and we used to like go to Yuba Gap or whatever, like where the crystal pools are or whatever, and go cliff diving off of like a 30-foot jump. It's like crazy, and then the water goes like super far down, like. But it was always crazy, like having to hike in to go there. You have to hike in quite a ways just to get there.
Yeah, I think a couple of my friends did that a couple months ago, but my friend just opened up a shop like about 6 months ago, so I'm helping him out like every other weekend.
Nice. Good friend.
I'll take some pictures of their Saturn section and post it to the Discord.
Yeah, Tom says so much road noise.
Yeah, I'm gonna just cut out and join on the YouTube stream because I don't think I have the ability to easily mute myself on mobile right now. So.
Well, let me just see. I can lower your volume and that might help. Here, I've lowered you to 50%. Say something. Say something, Chrono.
Okay, yeah, well, if it becomes a problem, I'll just leave, so just give me a heads
No, there
up.
you go. There you go. I turned you down to like 50%, so I could still hear you, but it's not nearly as bad. Dave, do you think if my Saturn is multi-region modded, it's likely to play burned discs? Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, if you could play burn discs on a Saturn with pseudo Saturn, right? Like, I don't think that's an issue.
Well, it depends
if
on
it's a PAL Saturn, yeah, like if it's a, he is from the UK, so. Sorry, what were you gonna say? Keep talking over each other.
It might have a multi-chip. It might have a multi-chip in there just for the region and the hertz.
Yeah.
Versus being able to play burn games would require either the chip or the card.
Right, that's what I was saying. All he needs to do is get a pseudo Saturn cart, and he'll be able to play burn games. He was saying he doesn't have an ODE. I mean, so, like, the options would be either grab a Saru for, I don't know, some folks have reported them as cheap as 65 bucks, or grab, like, grab a pseudo cart, pseudo flash action replay, or one of those all-in-ones. The point is, it's not expensive to, you know, play ISOs. I guess if you're doing the burn disc route, it's going to cost you extra just to be able to burn those discs, but I just get a Saru and call it a day, honestly. Or a Fenrir, I mean, if you want to, but it sounds like if he's rocking discs, he wants to keep his disc drive. So I'd just say get a Saru. Anyway, like, at least I'll get a score up on the board. It won't be a great score, but I'll get something up on the board, and that way I can say, hey, at least I participated in our own Saturn community challenge. And you know, I'll probably work at my score a little bit and try to figure out the finer points of this thing, but
here's a piece of advice for you. Sure. I was going to mention something earlier, but you guys had that conversation going.
Oh, there you go. I tilted. I didn't mean to, but okay, go ahead. Whoops.
Like if you get a multi-ball going, you can always corral two of the other balls with one flipper and just try to use the other flipper until it becomes absolutely necessary to kick all the balls out again. Mm-hmm. It just makes it easier to keep your multi-ball going if you only have to worry about one ball flicking around the screen at a time.
Okay, so say that again. Say that again just so I can...
Oh, because now you got a multi-ball going. Okay,
now I got a multi-ball.
Yeah, so you can, like, corral one of the balls with your flipper and just keep it held up.
Yeah.
And then just try to get by using only one flipper until it becomes absolutely impossible.
So jackpot is... I need to jackpot it. I gotcha. Jackpot, there we go. I mean, like, it's crazy to me, like, because I'm not I do love pinball machines, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a pinball fan. Or, I don't play a lot of pinball machines. So, like, it amazes me that some folks can, like, score 3 billion on this thing. Like, talk about keeping it going. I have not figured out.
I think Malenko plays a lot of pinball.
Malenko? Okay. Yeah.
I used to watch a guy who routinely bought pinball machines and, like, traded them and all kinds of crap. So I know a decent amount, but I still wouldn't consider myself a pinball expert.
I'm gonna try a different board. I mean, I would say that the digital pinball games are easily the best on Saturn, and actually some of the best pinball games made, at least in the 90s for sure. We did a pinball podcast, and it was easily, like, unanimously the top pick for everybody. One that I found that I actually really loved that I didn't know I would love was Pinball Graffiti, which ended up being kind of like an RPG, like a pinball RPG. That one was a lot of fun. Let me see. I'll do Night of the Roses.
Yeah, I mean, these games were good enough to get re-released at one point too. Like,
True.
I think it was Last Gladiators. It got re-released on iPhone in, like, the 2010s at one point.
Mm-hmm. Let's go 10 million. But before we do, I just want to read some of the comments, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Hey, Neil, how's it going? he needs to. You definitely need to pull the trigger on a satiator. Although that is definitely expensive. Like you're going for the most expensive option. But I don't think that. I mean, if you can get past the initial spend on the satiator, I don't think that you'll be disappointed. I will say that I haven't been. Nobody I know have been. Nobody I know have been. Disappointed with the satiator so far. Especially those that go to cons and like take it with them. Into the hotel room or out on the convention floor, just pop it into any machine that's there, and you can like demonstrate games. You can do game swaps or homebrew stuff. We've used the satiator so much at conventions. It's worked out amazingly. And I mean, Saru is no slouch, at least when it comes to for the moment, for the time being, when it comes to commercial games. I think Saru is great. I'm not using it right now because I just don't have any reason. With playing so much Netlink stuff online, it's just I can't use it as my daily driver. But I mean, it's still a great. If you're not into the Saturn online stuff, then I can highly recommend it. Dan's here. Dan the Mega Driver. 3 Saturns is what I have, Tom. 1 was sacrificed to Fenrir, though the drive was already dead. Yep. How's everybody doing this Saturn day? Feel free to...
Oh, so Dave, just so that the audience knows, right now, until the serial cable that Knight has is full-fledged, the only way to do Netlink is either to have a mod chip, Fenrir, or Satiator, right? As far as...
That's correct.
Slot open.
Yeah, you can do mod chip, Fenrir, Satiator. What was the one? Mode works. What doesn't
Phoebe,
work?
Rhea.
Yeah, Phoebe Rhea would work. Although we don't recommend those on the site because I just don't know how available they are. Are they available? Like, can you just go buy a Phoebe or Rhea? Like you could.
I don't know. I haven't heard anybody mention it in a while. So.
Yeah,
I understand. Oh, my understanding was always that the guy who makes those has periods where they just go up for sale and it's first come first serve, and they're pretty rare.
Yeah, and I mean they work great. I will say that from all the folks who have them, they're like, I've never had a problem with it. It works great. So I mean they are definitely good devices. It's just availability is not. It's just not easy to recommend because I can't just say, oh, here's a link, go buy one, Man, I'm doing terrible at this. Saru is 55 now. So like, yeah, like if you spend 55, you're probably getting a bare board and you're probably getting used chips. And if you're okay with taking that gamble, go for it. I mean, for $55, it might be worth it. I guarantee it'll probably work out of the box. If you go to upgrade the firmware, it's, anyone's guess. But then again, he has implemented a new... The question is, if you buy something for $55 and it relies on a forked firmware, then you're really just beholden to that vendor, and you'll have to wait for them to do any firmware updates. But if it doesn't rely strictly on a forked firmware, you could use the new firmware from what is it, TP Unix, which I guess doesn't actually permanently flash the ROM, which is a good thing. It just kind of like reads the firmware off of the SD card, and that way it's safe. It's safe for bricks. Start lit rounds, super kickback. I don't know what. I actually don't know what those options are. I need to read the manual. Extra. Okay.
Super kickback is when the ball goes down the out lanes there on the side, and instead of draining, it'll get kicked back out onto the play field. So it's a way of saving your ball automatically.
I always have trouble when the ball goes like right in the middle. Like that, and it's like, okay, it just like happens to fall right down in the middle. Yeah, Dan, you do need to record your score.
Enter the quest.
Knight of the Roses. Super Jets.
So Dave, on the anniversary of the Saturn today, do you want to, for those that didn't patch into the podcast yesterday, do you want to talk a little bit about changing the narrative on the history of the Saturn?
Sure. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to deny the history of the Saturn, but I don't want, the next 30 years to be the same old conversation. The Saturn was a failed console before the Dreamcast. That's reductionist, and it's not, considering the whole picture. And it's just a purely Western view. It doesn't include folks in Brazil, doesn't include folks in Portugal, certainly not Japan. I mean, we don't talk about the Dreamcast like it was this huge failed console, even though, your definition depending on your definition of failure, even the Dreamcast was a failure, right? Quote unquote. But the point is, loads of people love the Dreamcast and talk about it fondly, and even Sega seems to get that message and put, love and attention into, releasing like Dreamcast games. You don't see that, and of course, Genesis, almost universally loved in the West, maybe not so much in Japan, but with the Genesis, it's obvious that Sega, are quite well aware that they can just sell Genesis stuff over and over again, like hotcakes. But with Saturn, it's like, if they're just reading the room and trying to see like what is the tone out there, what are fans' thoughts on Saturn? Oh well, the conversation remains that it's this failed console and that it's an oddity that nobody really wants to dip their toe into. We can't bank on nostalgia, that kind of thing, So I don't know. To me, it just feels like it feels like the narrative and the conversation has been very samey over the last close to 30 years, and if retro.
Here's my take though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the fact that the narrative has been the same the past 30 years is also due to the fact that at least in the West, where the narrative is dominant, right? Or YouTubers and social media and such.
English media, basically.
Hardly anybody here had a Saturn, right? Hardly anyone here had a Saturn when it was out. So we sold 2 million units at best in the US versus over 100 million PlayStations, right? So I think if we want to change the narrative, we just have to introduce the system to more people that just didn't get a chance to even try it out.
Exactly. It's time for the focus of every conversation to be, I would say, enthusiastically positive. You know what I'm saying? Instead of spending what time we have talking about the same stuff that you could read in a Wikipedia article, or do much better and watch, like Nick's documentary on the Saturn and stuff like that. But that's all. It's not that I'm trying to like throw anybody under the bus. Like I said, I'm just trying to say, like, I think collectively the Western media need to do better at just like pushing interest in the Saturn and helping folks realize that you don't need to sell a kidney to be able to play the console. You certainly don't need to collect for Saturn in order to play Saturn, And the point I made yesterday on the show is, if I wanted to, I love Neo Geo, and if I wanted to buy an AES and a flash cart, it would cost me close to $1,000, just for that experience. But for a Saturn and a flash cart, you're looking at $150, maybe. I could do it for cheaper personally. Like I could get into a Saturn and a Saru for $100. So like folks who want to play the Saturn and get into its games, it's totally accessible, and it's like this amazing console with a huge, excellent 5th generation library, unlike a lot of its competitors. I love 3DO as well, but that did like 2 million units worldwide, and it has some games that I think make it worth owning, but that's definitely much more niche than the Saturn. Saturn is a mainstream console. Neil, I have a CDZ. That's the closest I'm going to come to for the Neo Geo. I'm not At this point, I'm not going to get an AES. Unless I find one and somebody doesn't know what they have. Let's do 2X playfield.
It's not really fair to lay so much blame at Saturn's feet for Sega's demise either. I don't think, because given what we now know about Genesis, and I don't mean to throw shade at the Genesis, but Sega's troubles started long before they released the Saturn.
Yeah, you could even argue, it's like knowing what we know now, you could even argue that that had they cooperated, had America cooperated and gone along with the Saturn, and moreover, like really got behind it and pushed with a singular focused vision of making that console as successful as it possibly could be compared to the PlayStation, you know? So in other words, no 32X, no Nomad, you know? I mean, as cool as it is, and I'm a geek for hardware and stuff, and I think the Nomad is great, but I mean, it was a huge extra money pit, you know, of an expense for Sega that they couldn't afford. But I mean, you know, because we all know that there's no way Sega could have spent, you know, there's no way that they could spend Sony under the table like Sony could, you know? Sony just, they had the money and they had the manufacturing. And it's true that Sega was beholden to other companies to, you know, manufacture their stuff. So what they needed to do was get wholly behind the Saturn and focus on putting machines out there and letting folks play it and play good games, you know, that would make good first impressions on folks. You know, rather than the $50 million in wasted advertising, I think, on stuff that just didn't matter. It was that 90s style advertising where rather than showing folks the product, you try to sell them on a feeling. You try to sell them on an idea of what they would feel like playing the product. And I don't know if that speaks to the fact that that Sega of America wasn't confident in the product itself, you know? You know, because you saw people go on record, you know, you would hear folks go on record saying, oh, I don't think we have good games, you know? I mean, like, well, then I'm an idiot. I'm crazy then because I think Saturn has great games, you know?
I mean, it's the Sega system with the largest library. Now, you could argue that a lot of that is shovelware compared to, say, what the Mega Drive has, but, you know, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still the largest Sega library.
By comparison, like, okay, what's the PlayStation library? The PlayStation library is much larger, I believe. It's also
closer to 2,000.
Okay, say what now?
2,000.
The PlayStation library?
Yeah, PS1.
PS1, yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's probably close to 2,000.
Yeah, I thought it was even more than that.
That I would have guessed higher too.
We got 1,000, at least over 1,000 games in the U.S. alone.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you know, the ratio of garbage, the good stuff. I mean, the PlayStation has a ton of great games, but then it's got like a ton more games than the Saturn, you know. So, but it's got plenty of garbage titles as well, you know. It's got your, you know, Mary Kate and Ashley, and it's got your, you know, Barbie games, and it's got a ton of stuff on it that I wouldn't be personally interested in playing, but I don't know. Anyway, you know, I've been thinking a lot about how, okay, like there's not a whole lot of interest in Atari 2600 anymore, at least in terms of collecting. The prices are falling out. You know, a lot of those folks have either sold off or just, you know, moved on. NES prices are starting to drop, believe it or not. And, you know, the recent nostalgia is, you know, for the 80s and late 80s. It's you know, 90s is coming. When you think about how, did you see that meme? Like if Marty McFly went back to the 50s, at this point he would actually be going back to like when Back to the Future was made, basically mid 80s. So
you don't think You don't think the 90s nostalgia wave isn't already here, considering the prices of games from the 90s at this point?
It is, but I think that okay, so like I'm talking about how these waves they take like an entire decade to play out, you know. So yes, I think that it's here to a degree, but I don't think that we've seen the most of it. Like I don't think we're smack dab in the middle of it. I think that folks are still getting over the 80s nostalgia.
I think in the broader entertainment sphere, you're right. Like people, in movies and television, it's definitely
still
all
80s focused, right?
In video games, I think we've been in like a 90s nostalgia wave for quite a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. So there you go. So essentially, I don't know how much longer the interest is going to be there. You know what I'm saying? And I guess my argument is, I don't really know how much longer a console like the Saturn has an opportunity to remain in the spotlight. So
so capitalize on it. Well, you can. I would say
exactly.
If you're Sega, yeah,
exactly.
I've been saying that for years.
Yes, you have. I know you have. And I mean honestly, your content. Well, your content has been very much like let the games speak for themselves. You know, it's all been about capture and archival. But and I mean it has. It's been reference grade material for folks all over YouTube who are just, you know, considering, oh, you know, what kind of games are out there on Saturn. But I mean, so it's like, yeah, like the conversation needs to be focused on the positive, basically. Because if you only have so much time, if you only have so much time left to talk about something, why retread the same, you know, the same narrative over and over again? Also, you know, if you want
focusing on your comment about nostalgia, though, like when we talk about nostalgia with the 64 or the PS1, it's because so many people had those machines, right? So there's a huge user base to be even nostalgic about that piece of history.
Wow.
Whereas when we look at the Saturn in the US, not many people had it. So like the people that are nostalgic about it is so small to begin with. That we need to increase that user base now to even get nostalgic about it. That's
I mean,
kind of where my position is.
Yeah, and I mean the truth is we're not gonna be able to create nostalgia for this console, but what we'll be able to create is genuine, you know, new interest in the machine. You know, if folks see the games and they see folks raving about the machine, you know, they're going to be interested in it. One thing that I notice is like it's really easy to alienate. Like I can only speculate on how much Japanese viewers you know, watch Western content. But I imagine when the narrative is overtly negative, they probably just tune out because they're like, well, I can't. That doesn't resonate with me. I can't relate to that. You know, you know, Saturn was super popular over here, and you know, I have a bunch of great memories about it. So the last thing I want to do is listen to some American dude talk about how it was a failure. You know, too bad. I'm sorry for you guys that was the case, basically. You know, and you know, I would like the content that we do to be accessible to you know, everyone, not just the folks who kind of had to go through that time period and deal with, you know, what all the magazines were saying about it and what all the press basically had to say about it.
It's weird because we're even getting pushback from Sega fans too. Like, I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you saw this. Some of the comments on Twitter over the last couple days.
Sure.
I'm not going to say. No, I think it's fine to mention him. Sean Tagg, I don't know if you follow him at all. He's the guy who makes like models of cars from Outrun and Daytona and post pictures of them.
Okay, no.
Okay. Anyway, he was just having a casual conversation a couple days ago with somebody, and at one point he said, I rarely boot my Saturn up anymore. Just most of the games on there have been ported to other systems at this point, so it's kind of pointless. And I'm thinking that's not really the case. There's still a lot of games on the system that have either never received ports or haven't received a port since the 90s.
Yeah, okay, well, I know the next article I write is going to have to be, okay, here are all the games that are still locked to the Saturn. That'll be a good one.
But I mean, to his credit, he did start like a thread after that where he asked people to list games that are, or mention games that have that are still exclusive to the system, and a lot of people started to do that. Started to do just that.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
I mean, we could run our mouth off right now if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean,
three dirty dwarves, Steve's
Bulk Slash. Yeah. Okay. So, the original Sakura Wars, right? Has that ever been re-released? The original?
Didn't it show up on Dreamcast at one point? Weren't the first two games re-released on Dreamcast?
Okay, I guess. Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, that's true. I'll have to think about it.
All three Shining Force scenarios. I mean, come on now. There's plenty that has not been ported over to anything.
Super Tempo. Am I struggling with those?
Last Gladiators, Digital Pinball.
Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Well, Last Gladiators was ported to iOS, so there was a port.
Okay. Yeah, so there sometimes you do get these like straggler ports that are like on platforms that I'm not necessarily aware of, like an iOS port. But even that is not like like some of that stuff becomes unavailable after a while. It's like if you don't get it or you end up having to like download it from some strange site in order. Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget about Stellar Assault SS.
There you go.
There you go. Stellar Assault.
Only on Saturn.
Steep Slope Sliders.
So is Mr. Bones, as Neil Henderson points out.
Mr. Bones.
Clockwork Knight.
Did that one ever get? Did Mr. Bones ever get a Sega PC release back in the day though?
I don't think so.
Because a lot of that Nova Trade stuff what were they at the time? Appaloosa, I think. A lot of that Appaloosa stuff did get Sega PC ports.
I'll look it up on Sega Retro real quick, but I don't think it did get ported.
Die Hard Arcade or Dynamite Deca is still stuck on
That's
Saturn,
what I was gonna say. Did that get a Sega PS2?
Yes, it got a Sega Ages 2500 release,
which was only Japanese.
For my money, that's the best of that whole series is that game, because that's an excellent port. That's an excellent remake.
Mr. Bones is not ported outside the Saturn.
Okay.
Also, Sega Rally is pretty legit in that series. The port.
Yeah, it's good.
It's not.
It's just an emulation of. Yeah. It's just an emulation of the arcade, because the arcade. It's even you can even see it's like set to free play mode.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's so if you want to play like the arcade version of the game, it's a good way to do it.
Dan the Mega Driver says in the comments, Anarchy in the Nippon.
Oh yeah,
Shining
for sure.
Wisdom, Shining Holy Ark, Panzer Dragoons Vi, and Saga, Clockwork Knight 1 and 2, Bug and Bug 2. Lots of games.
Well, hopefully Vi gets its remake here soon. I mean, it's looking like it might happen.
Yeah, I guess there's like a screenshot of a Discord server floating around, and it shows like someone who allegedly works at what's it called? Who did the first Panzer Dragoon remake? Begins with an F. Forever Entertainment.
Forever Entertainment.
Yeah, so I guess somebody who works for Forever Entertainment supposedly said that they have done this Vi remake. It's playable. They've played it, but there's still disagreements among interested parties as far as creative decisions. So that kind of reads to me that Sega's like, yeah, we don't like how you did this and that, change it. And so that's delaying it.
Right.
Yeah, that's their community manager who posted that, and that was back in March. So it's not exactly new news, but...
Okay, March is a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, they've been... I think they're getting close, because if you've noticed, the Panzer Dragoon Remake Twitter account has been fairly active since the beginning of this year. I mean, it kind of... Yeah, they started posting, like, episode-by-episode game trailers, teasers, or what... Yeah, clips. Not of Zwei, but of, like, the last game they did, like, just reiterating, hey, this is a game you can go out and buy, and they were doing it for, I think, like, January, February, and March. Like, they did episodes 1, 2, and I think 3. And then they kind of stopped around the time they posted that message about, oh, we can't talk, we can't share anything about this game until all parties are satisfied with the overall quality of it.
Yeah.
So I think they were planning to build to, you know, they would do videos of all the episodes of the game and then start posting content for Zwei, but that might have gotten derailed at one point.
Moosejack asked in chat if there's a version of Stellar Assault with mission stick support for Japanese language, and no, we never made something like that. I guess it was something we had thought about. We had thought about doing something similar with the twin stick support for bulk slash without changing the language for Japanese speakers, and we just never got around to doing either of those things. Moosejack also asked who put together the trailer for Stellar Assault. I don't remember. What?
Dan, didn't we find out that we could put in a Pro Action replay code to enable the mission stick for Stellar Assault?
Yeah, I think that was what first got somebody came. I think Private Eye or somebody came up with it. He came up with an action replay code to do it, and then Silos poked around and you know, figured out how to just edit the original file.
Oh, so Dave, going back to your interest, people's interest in the Saturn, I don't know how much of this has to do with content creators and clips blowing up, but last month in April, I sold 4 Saturns locally to people that had never experienced the system before. And one of the guys had mentioned Metal Jesus as a reason why, hey, they wanted to go out and pick one up, and they couldn't find one local. And I have local ads posted for my stuff. So yeah, I sold 4 systems last month, and so the interest is definitely out there. I think us getting the word out that, hey, this library is more expansive than what you might have remembered or what people have told you is super important.
But I mean, and I don't want to discount what you're saying, but I will say that, like what you're talking about, someone seeking out, seeking out a Saturn and that interest being there. But when we go to conventions and stuff, it's like I'm just like polling a general audience, from a lot of the people that walk by and are kind of just like glancing at, and they're like, oh, Saturn, and they have like comments about it, like I'm just saying, like the general consensus is that it's either unapproachable or it's like, oh yeah, I have too much of a backlog, I'm not, can't even think about it. Or, oh, it's, I've heard that the games aren't great. There's still a lot of that, that I would say misunderstanding or misconception that needs to be dispelled,
that hunk of junk that killed Sega.
And then, what doesn't help too is, example, like let's say you've got folks who have nostalgia for PlayStation and they grab one and they're still trying to like play it via like some shitty HDMI converter, right? But they've got that built-in nostalgia for PlayStation, so they're willing to forgive if the gameplay doesn't, isn't what they remember, or, but a lot of folks might grab a Saturn and their first experience is, firing it up with a cheap HDMI solution and having it lag and be like a terrible gameplay experience and think, oh, well, this just sucks, That's another thing. It's like, people either need to like play via composite on a CRT or get, a decent solution like Rad2X or something so they can actually experience the console the way it is. But if they don't have that built-in nostalgia, it's really easy to just kind of like form opinions about it without really knowing. Like my brother-in-law, he thought that Sega Rally didn't play well. but that was because he had it just like plugged in directly to his LCD, you know, and it was doing some kind of terrible scaling or de-interlacing. And I told him, I was like, you gotta go grab. I promise you, it plays great. You just gotta get yourself a good HDMI solution, or just play it on a CRT. Is my opinion. I think that's actually coming back, to be honest with you. I think even a lot of folks that are into RGB stuff are starting to be like, you know what? Composite on a CRT is not bad. It's just a different experience, you know? That one.
Oh, speaking to your comment about the conventions and people just like, oh look, there's the Saturn. That's a cute little system. Right. I wonder how much of that is due to like actual collectability though, meaning like,
oh yeah,
hey, you see the Saturn there, but there's like barely any even games because it's so hard to come by a bunch of long boxes, right?
Right. That's the thing. Yeah, folks think that it's like, and that's one of the things that bugs me so much. It's like, SHIRO, our whole point is play Sega Saturn, right? Like, and I don't mean to be telling folks just go out and just pirate everything, right? But I want folks to play the Saturn. I want folks to discover its library and find the games that like resonate with them, you know? Then if you find something that you fall in love with, then you can seek out that game, you know? Maybe get the Japanese version of it or something. You can have a physical copy of it. But again, you're only going to be supporting a reseller, right? Unless we get Sega to realize that they need to re-release these games, it's like you're pretty much supporting resellers. But the fact is, when people just think, oh well, to be into Saturn is to have to collect for Saturn. No, that's not what I'm saying, and that's not the message that I'm trying to send. It's like people need to actually play the darn thing.
The day, it's the games that are what carry the system. That's what you got to play. Play the games.
Play the games.
What's up, y'all?
Here you go.
It kind of doesn't even matter. Like I wouldn't be like we were talking earlier about there not supposedly not being any exclusives on the Saturn anymore. Well, I still wouldn't shed a tear if that actually were the case, because you know, if the games get ported and they're accessible to more people, that would make me happier, actually.
Yeah.
You know, if I could play Last Gladiators and Necronomicon and Astal or Clockwork Knight or any of those games on like other consoles, I would be all for that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I would love, to be honest with you, I think like folks don't really appreciate Clockwork Knight as much as they should. I think that it's actually a really cool series, that it's really charming, and it might actually be great on a more modern console with a little bit of a makeover, you know? Like I know it's because some people just have a hard time getting over those jaggy pixels or whatever, but I mean, I love it, but other folks don't. From an aesthetic standpoint, I don't know. You know, then there's also the argument that like games like Grandia are better played on Saturn, you know? Like it may not be exclusive to Saturn, but it's gonna be a better experience, you know?
Well, it would have been nice if the Saturn version had been used as the basis for the ports, but
right.
Alas, that wasn't the case.
Right. So, you know, folks, I still recommend folks just play Trekkie's translation.
The patch version,
yeah.
Are there many differences between the PlayStation and the Saturn version of Grandia?
Well, I mean, like, by and large, like the way that they draw graphics is different. Like the PlayStation had to make some concessions because it was designed for Saturn, and so when they ported it over to PlayStation, they just had to make compromises with the graphics because they don't have PlayStation doesn't have the VDP2. So there's that. I'm trying to think what other examples there would be. I just know, you know, it's the original console that the game was designed for, you know. And I think that folks who say, you know, folks who make the argument that what is it, Symphony of the Night is better played on PlayStation. I can get behind that. It was the console that it was designed for. There are still reasons to play the Saturn version, of course, you know, due to certain exclusives, and the fact that the translated version now had made several improvements that make it much more playable. But I mean, I still say you're probably gonna have the best experience on the PlayStation. It was designed for the PlayStation after all.
Yeah, I was just playing PlayStation last night.
What were you playing?
Oh shit, I was playing all kinds of stuff. I had Bushido Blade. God, why am I drawing a blank? There was a shmup I played. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a very bizarre Japanese one. I can't think of the name.
Quite a few of those.
Maybe one of the Chowaniki games, Big Brother.
No. If you give me a second, I'll get the title.
Man, I would love.
I gotta go cover this shop. It was a pleasure talking
Oh
to you
yeah,
guys
for
today.
sure. Talk to you later.
Let's see here. Where the hell is it? God, it had this like hilarious dialogue at the beginning of the game. It's a Japanese game, and he's speaking in English, and it's so funny the way he speaks. I actually watched Aqua, if you're familiar with him. He played it. I cannot find the title of it. But I watched him play. He's a real good shmup player on Twitch.
Man, I'm like not even coming close to. I'm still in like the low millions, and folks in this competition are like in the billions. So I really got to figure out what I'm doing wrong here.
Yeah, when I first had my Genesis I bought with my mom when I was a kid, it came packaged with Sonic Spinball, and for the life of me, I never could figure that game out, man. I don't think I made it past the first area.
Oh yeah, it takes a while like working with it to get any good at that.
Well, I like to say.
Yeah, I think it's fun, but it's different. That's STI, right? Sega Technical Institute, I think. It's not like Sega Japan.
I'm not sure. I consider myself much more of a gamer now and more of a collector when I was younger.
Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it. I'm much more of a collector now and content creator. Like a lot of I'm still decent at racing games, but man, I'm not like. Unless
what
you
at
just
the level you want to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, like you'd have to like put down the camera and just start focusing on playing games, you know, basically.
Right.
And that's the thing, is there's only so much time, you know. That's one of the things about getting older, is like you really do have to budget your time wisely and make hard decisions about how you want to spend your time. And you know, like some of the folks in the community, like that's what they do. They play games, and they play a lot of games, and they get really good at it. And I mean, if you spend enough time, you can get really good at this stuff. But I do not have that time to invest, so.
It's impressive watching these Korean guys play StarCraft.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
Yeah, the way because the hotkeys and the screen, it's just how they can micromanage all that shit so fast. Like, the way the brain and the fingers work, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I often think as I get older, if I'm, if I can even keep up with the younger generation.
You can't. Short answer. It's just that's just nature. You can stay sharp, but I mean you're never gonna be as sharp as you were when you're. I mean, you look at all the Tetris finalists, and the folks that are just like blowing the lid off of Tetris right now. They're all kids, basically.
Yeah. I mean, with that news feature, that one kid who beat the final, he beat the final stage at Tetris or something.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it's amazing. They're like they're almost like my kids' age,
Yeah.
Just really young kids, 14. But I mean, at that age, you are literally as fast as you. I mean, between like 14 and 18, you're just about as fast as your body and your neurons are ever going to be able to fire, and your reflexes.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, there are like veteran gamers, like I always reference Double Dime in our community. Like, he's just really, really good. And I mean, that goes for pretty much everything. Like, he's just generally good at most of the game challenges.
Gifted with the...
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people like that.
I wish I was better at shmups, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
Shmups are, they're a lot of fun. Like, I enjoy playing shmups. I'm just not that great at them. But that doesn't hinder my enjoyment of them, I wish we would get the... For Saturn, for like a... what is it? Yatterman? The cartoon. It's... what is that called? There's a shmup based on a Japanese cartoon. And it's escaping me at the moment. But it's a really cool shmup, and I want to see it get translated because it's got like a story element to it, and you actually play as the bad guy.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, but it's not coming to me. I would have to look through like Sega Retro or something.
I would, yeah. It's just the title. Yatterman is the subtitle, but what was the full title? Gosh, I forget. Super Kickback, Starlit. Go with that one.
Well, I impressed myself playing Blastwind the other day. I was able to get through that, using the allotted amount of continues and lives that they give you on a normal difficulty level. And that's one of the more relatively easier shmups, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Blastwind is pretty accessible.
The Technosoft collection to come out on modern systems pretty badly.
Battle Garega and Radiant Silvergun are those are the ones on my crosshairs right now that I really want to get good at.
Okay, I think I found it, Dave.
What is it?
Is it Time Bokan series? Bokanto Ipatsu.
Bokanto Ipatsu, yeah, that's what I couldn't, like, I was having a brain fart there. It's Bokanto Ipatsu, the Time Bokan series, the Yatterman Chronicle or whatever. It almost looks like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, or like the Japanese version of it, right? It was like a cartoon series in Japan, and apparently you have like all these different crafts. And you play as the bad guys, and the heroes are trying to stop you. Like, the good guys are trying to stop you, but you're actually the bad dudes. So it's funny. It's like what's that other the Tatsunoko stuff? It has that animation style. I don't know if it's the same animators as the Tatsunoko stuff, but it's really cool. It's a really cool, fun shmup. That's easy to get into and do well with. Yatterman is from Tatsunoko. Okay, that's what Tom is saying. So there you go. So yeah, that's one that I hope gets translated, honestly.
I'm trying to figure out if this is related to Time Stranger.
Time Stranger.
Yeah. Something that I think Central Park Media released back in the day.
No, Time Crisis. I've never heard of that.
No. The tilt always gets me. It's like I use it and it works like on those bumpers. Like I'm able to get more of a score by nudging the machine, but you know, you got to be careful, otherwise it ends up tilting. Start lit round, 45 second shield.
Okay, now Time Stranger was Go Shogun. And I don't think this is Go Shogun.
You much of a pinball player?
Not at all. But that, yeah. I mean, I enjoy, you know, the odd pinball machine, like in an arcade. But I'm not, you know, I'm not an experienced pinball player. Which is why I'm going to do terrible on this challenge. But that if folks are good at pinball, they should definitely get into our Discord and be a part of this challenge, because it's going to be a lot of fun. There are folks that are doing really, really well, so there's definitely a high target to hit. I think right now folks are pretty much going for like the 3 billion range. I think I've decided that I definitely like the Gladiators table the best, and I guess I'm not surprised since it's like the first table. So yeah, that must be why they put it first, because...
I think 3 out of the 4 tables here are pretty well. The Samurai one is... I can't wrap my head around how you're supposed to play that table without constantly training.
Yeah.
The other ones are all pretty well designed. Necronomicon on the whole was a better game, though.
It was, yeah.
In my opinion.
Right, because you had this engine, but you had like just better tables overall.
Yeah.
This game actually has a Necronomicon demo in it. And then of course, like with Necronomicon, you had John Petrucci on the Dream Theater, yeah. So
yeah, Dream Theater's great.
I'm not, you know, like the opening sequence to this still has like face melting guitar and stuff like that. So I mean, it's still a great soundtrack. All in all, I would say Necronomicon is just better. That's all.
Yeah,
I don't think Dream Theater did anything in that game aside from the opening FMV.
And it was just John Petrucci. It wasn't Dream Theater.
Okay.
It was just John Petrucci. So they must have reached out to him and were like, this is exactly what we need for this game. Which is funny because, you know, back then in the mid-90s, Dream Theater was touring Japan a lot. Like they were doing a lot of Japanese tours, and so they were very big in Japan.
That seems to be a running theme with how music gets selected. Western music ends up in these games, is it gets pretty... Because that's the case with a lot of the music that's in Sega Touring Car. Like, if you actually start looking into, like, Channel X, like the music that they had in that game.
Right.
The guy who
no! I can't nudge.
Headlines that project, whose name is like not coming to me at the moment, but he has like on his Bandcamp that they were very popular in Japan in the 90s, you know.
I saw Dream Theater and Iron Maiden live.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my cousin and his friend, I went with them. They wanted to go see Iron Maiden. I was like, I'm going for Dream Theater.
Dream Theater.
I never was much of an Iron Maiden fan.
Yeah. Well, who was the opener? Was it Dream Theater or Iron Maiden?
Dream Theater was the opener.
Oh, it had. Oh my God. So yeah, because Iron Maiden, because of the name, right? They have it on the name alone, but like Dream Theater would have been the show that I wanted to see, right there. I mean, they're absolutely freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, Images and Words. That was my favorite album.
Images, the original.
Yep.
I also very much enjoyed, like, well, I don't know. I've enjoyed most of their albums.
Yeah, I mean, all of it's great.
Their second album was insane as well.
Favorites.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what? They're as good as Jordan Rudess is on keys. I did appreciate their original keyboardist, Kevin. I forget his last name, but yeah, the original keyboardist from Images and Words. Like, he just had a way. I don't know. I like his stuff.
Yeah, they are still around making music today, aren't they?
They sure are, yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, they just had Mike Portnoy get back with them, because they had Mike Mangini for a long time on drums, and Mike Portnoy, the original drummer, you know, just got back with them, so they're doing more stuff. Yeah, I like this table the best. See, when I use the nudge on those bumpers, I feel like sometimes it like keeps the ball in those bumpers for a while and gives me a more of a score, like right here. See? But if I do it too much, then it's running a risk. Saturn Memories, you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
You, I know you've been super busy with
Saturn Memories.
Different stuff. But have you found any new fun archival stuff in the weeds?
I haven't really been concentrating. I got burned out on it for a while, and then I kind of moved on to the other project that I'm working on right now.
Okay, good. No, I mean, that's good though. That way
speaking of which, your recommendation on Aerial Narrow, that worked out pretty damn well. It looks good.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, I was a shot in the dark. And I mean, you can italicize it too. It all depends on, you know, just I mess around with fonts like that and just kind of see what looks best to your eye. You know, when again,
yeah, I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if I want to italicize it, because the title on top of it is already italicized.
Also italicized. Good point.
So,
yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, there are like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say it's one of those things where you have to trial and error it and see what looks good, because there are instances where it can, where you can have an italicized heading and you know, text, body text. But you're right. I mean, typically, if you're going to do one, you'll have the other be non-italicized. But
yeah, it's all coming together pretty well. I'm hoping. I guess I should mention what the hell it is, so people aren't like,
you can.
What the hell are they talking about? I'm not going to show off any pictures of it, but I'm working on a game manual and cover for DDI Rally for when that comes out.
Oh man!
I mean, officially, right now it's in early access, and I've made it like extra large. It's like higher than 4K at this point, so. It should be really good quality. People will be able to print out their own manual and game cover and jacket and put it in a CD case. If the game ever gets a physical release, they could just all the work there will be done for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it should look really nice. It's based on the Japanese Sega Rally cover.
Yeah. I love how you got
the manual and the cover, and
you got the Castrol, you know, and you got the, what is it, the
Martini Racing
stripes
libraries.
And stuff. Yeah, love it. Yeah, it's good touch.
Yeah, it's. I only did it because it looked like it was clean and simple enough for my skill level, that I would be able to handle it. Because I'm not a graphic design expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah,
but I mean, and I'm sure there's faster ways to do things, but I'm just kind of like figuring it out on the fly.
No, I mean, as somebody who is a graphic designer, just looking at what you did, I appreciate the simplicity and the restraint. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times folks who don't do graphic design, they go a little farther than they should, and that's where it shows. And it's like that design is just like simple, tasteful. It works. I mean, simple is never gonna go out of style. Like just having it be. I like what you did. I think it works.
Well, I could never probably do that on my own. I have a template to work from, is basically what,
Fair enough.
So you can't give the credit to me. Whatever Japanese artist within Sega that came up with that manual. That's right. all. That's all on them. All I did was base my work on theirs. On theirs.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, gotta get that multi-ball.
Does the Saturn have an answer to Gran Turismo?
It tries. It's not really. So Sega. What was it? Sega GT24. What's it called? The one that's like a.
It's GT24 on Saturn. And in the arcade, it's like Super GT 24 hours or something like that. The arcade game's much better than the Saturn port.
Yes, and the Saturn port, to be honest, it's a little rough, especially if you're comparing it to Gran Turismo. And then, of course, I would say that it's worth mentioning that Sega Touring Car does focus a bit much on like the whole grip driving and stuff like that, although it's not realistic at all. It's like the speed is not realistic. It's off the rails arcade, but I mean, it's more focused on realism per se than other arcade games. It tries to at least incorporate some racing physics and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was probably the intent, but whether they accomplished that or not, that's up for debate.
Right. They thought they did. At least for the time, but then they weren't privy to Gran Turismo yet. I'm sure when they saw Gran Turismo, they were like, oh yeah, that's much better. Because on that archived site of for Sega Touring Car, like in the notes from the developer, they're like, we think we captured the most real driving experience that has been on a console so far.
Yeah,
so they were quite proud of themselves.
There's an old interview, and I would have to dig for it, and oh my god, it's a nightmare to find anything in Google anymore.
I know, right? How do you? What's your answer to that, by the way? Do you use another search engine or something? Like Google's only ever going to serve you whatever serves them, like.
Yeah, I guess try DuckDuckGo or Bing. I've done that a few times, and I've had better results. I mean, Google's just a hellscape anymore.
Right.
Anyway, there was this old interview that Mizuguchi did that was translated to English, where I know he said I think he said only 4 months to work on Sega Touring Car. So I wonder how much of that is just down to it being rushed rather than, we achieved something completely realistic. Because I'm sure that was the narrative around the time of release, but I think this interview came out later when the game wasn't well received, and they were just like, we didn't have much time to work on it, and it didn't turn out very well. But he did mention they went out and they drove actual touring cars.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he did mention that. And they tried to research it. They tried to do some research, but not to the extent of the folks at Polyphony Digital. Like they really did their homework. I would say that Yu Suzuki as well, like, because he was such a nerd for like Ferrari and stuff like that when he did the 355 challenge, like that's pretty That's rough. That game is not easy.
Isn't that like what he does for every racing game though? Is he goes on some sort of road trip or goes to a track and drives the actual car?
Who knows? Yeah. He's like, just expense this this fantasy that I have to Sega.
Yeah, like for Outrun, his research for that was to take a vacation to Europe and drive around in a sports car.
Oh yeah, and when they did Manx TT, they got to go to the island of Man and they got to race motorcycles and stuff. They had to check out what it was like, how the performance of those sheep, you know, on that island. Because you know the sheep on the Isle of Man are faster than typical sheep.
They let you ride them too. They don't.
Yeah, they let you ride them. Rideable sheep.
Rideable sheep.
Oh, see, I was
like
doing so well there.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one of the better secrets in Sega racing games, is being able to ride on those. On the sheep,
yeah. I'm gonna have to just not do the nudge thing anymore. It's just too much of a liability. At least for me. Don't move.
Yeah, I'm really liking the SHIRO. I was able to fit about 30 plus games on the SD card, and
what kind of SD card?
Only 3 don't work.
And did you
it's
try
like a 32 gigabyte?
Oh, okay, 32 gigs.
Not very large.
Yeah. So now, were you able to like go into the configuration file and change the timing settings to get those games to work?
I haven't tweaked anything. No.
Okay. There's like an online forum, and I don't think it's like anything official. I think it's one guy who's running this forum where they're kind of keeping track of what settings work best for each game. And there are a few games that need like a special setting to change the timing so that it so that they work. But you might be able to even get those games to work if you change this. Yeah.
Yeah, Virtual On, it loaded, but it was like flickering up and down, and it was just very glitchy. And then Blastwind just sat idle there, not loading at all.
I gotcha. Yeah, probably an issue with the timing. And that's the thing, is it's like people need it's like, because SHIRO is so available right now commercially to buy, albeit that it's from like multiple different vendors, it feels like it's a retail product, but really it's like it's in beta right now. It's like everyone is like a beta tester for this thing right now, and we're basically trying to come up with that information, you know, so that they can reach the point of 100% compatibility, you know. But this is the kind of stuff that, you know, like with Satiator, they'd release it to backers like a year in advance and have them beta test
into a robot.
OIM.
Yeah.
I got you. Here we go. Probably gonna have to bounce after a little bit here, because I still do have like several things I got to get done today.
Right on.
But it was nice. I mean, it's nice to be able to stream on Saturday and have folks join in.
Yeah, this is great.
Happy Saturn Day.
Yeah. Happy 29th Western anniversary, May 11th. Surprise. It's out there.
Yeah, I remember growing up, my cousin, he was a PlayStation, and he was not at all impressed with my.
Your cousin was a PlayStation?
Yeah, he loved his place. I tried. He was not jealous at all about my Saturn.
He was not jealous. Yeah, I mean, you know, I get that. Like, it was just you felt like a real loner if all you had was Saturn and everybody else on the playground had PlayStation, you know, or N64. But I mean, you know, like for me, it was a weird set of coincidences that that led to me owning a Saturn, because we had a PlayStation, but I just, you know, it didn't stay around the house very much because my dad would take it on the road. So I ended up getting a Saturn just because I wanted to have something else that I could play when he took the PlayStation on the road. And Saturn just happened to be the only thing I could afford on my budget, you know, on a teenage budget where I'm not making much money, you know. Hey, there's Pandemonium. He's come here to tell me, get your lines, record your lines, Dave. I gotta edit this video.
Wait, so Dave, when you got your Saturn, how many people in your like immediate area did you know that had one?
Zero. Zero. I've told this story before, but essentially it was me and my brother. Me and my brother were it. And then when I was in high school, so like my senior year of high school, I was in a 3D animation class, so like 3D Studio Max and stuff like that, right? And the dude that sat next to me, my friend that sat next to me, had a Saturn, and he was getting ready, like he was gearing up to get an Xbox. Like he was super excited about the Xbox. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy the Xbox the second it comes out. I'm so hyped." And I was like, "Oh, what? So you have a Saturn? You know? Would you let me borrow any of your games? You know, since you're gonna have your hands full with the Xbox?" And yeah, he let me borrow a bunch of games to play, including like Sonic R and stuff like that. But he was literally the only other person. I was surprised to hear that he had a Saturn. Like, and I don't know how it came up in conversation, but I found out he had a Saturn. I was like, wow, you're literally the only other person in Reno that I've met who had a Saturn. Yeah, my brother and I used to check out Saturn games from the library, believe it or not. And I think the library, like the fact that of all consoles they stocked Saturn games, just spoke to how like out of touch they were. Like they knew Sega was a name, like Sega was a name they recognized, and so they padded their library, pun intended, I guess, that with Saturn software as opposed to PlayStation, because I guess that, you know, like I don't know how libraries like select what stuff they stock, but yeah, they. And if I don't know if other people are familiar with that, like public libraries stocking video games. But mine did, and it was Saturn. I don't think you could get PlayStation games or N64 games, but you could check out Saturn games. And since I was the only kid in Reno who was like checking out Saturn games, it was like me and my brother would just put all of them on hold, and that's one way we would experience a lot of games when we had like no money to buy games.
Yeah, for me,
in the same boat as you, just one person in my high school had it.
Yeah. I mean, and I could still, you know, I could still be a part of those PlayStation conversations because I had a PlayStation. If we had the PlayStation first, you know, so, and I had take and an opinion on PlayStation games and stuff, and I did get to play them from time to time. But I mean, like I say, my dad ended up really commandeering that console and getting like deep into all the RPGs and stuff. With the N64, it was just like, that was a console that a lot of my friends had, so I'd play it at sleepovers and parties and stuff like that. So, and then later my brother was able to do some kind of like system swap where we ended up getting an N64 in the house for like a year to just play with a bunch of games.
Man, I was living rent-free at my mom's house, doing lawn care. Every paycheck, I'd just buy Saturn games. I'd go to Funko Land and just clean them out.
That's awesome, especially when you consider that like Saturn games were pretty affordable back then.
Yeah, they had a ton of them.
Yep.
I'd just go there and buy. I had a hell of a collection, both Dreamcast, Saturn, and Sega CD.
What happened to it? Did you end up selling it?
I sold everything.
Oh man.
I've gotten rid of all my gaming stuff. It was just recently last year that my cousin gave me his Saturn, which his uncle gave him. So
no.
Yeah, I'm able to finally play on some real hardware. It feels real good.
Yeah, my Saturn fell in my lap too. This kid stayed over at my house and he intentionally left it there so his mom would buy him a PlayStation.
What?
I tried to give it back to him and I desperately wanted this thing and said, he was like, keep it. And I was like, okay. Yeah,
that's
sure.
crazy.
Birthday to me.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Jesus.
Yeah, I've shared the longer part of that story with a few people, but I have it to this day. It was crazy. I actually reached out to him on Facebook. I was like, hey man, do you still want this? He was like, nah, dude.
I was just a Sega kid. I wanted a Saturn because I had a Genesis, and I loved the Genesis, and I loved my Saturn too. And I was disappointed as time went on, and there were fewer and fewer games to get for it. But and that's kind of why I didn't move on and get a Dreamcast, because I kind of felt burned by the end. It's like, you know what? I love this system. There just wasn't enough games for it. And
yeah.
I think had gotten a PC by '98, I think it was, and I kind of got into PC gaming after that.
Yeah, like back then I wasn't into PC gaming just because it was so your mileage would vary depending on your system, you know, and graphics drivers were in their infancy, and you had like 3D effects and glide and all that stuff. Like, I loved the curated console experience. Like, we were still graphics whores, so we got a Dreamcast the moment it came out, because it was like, wow, this is the future. And my dad was even big on Dreamcast, you know, and while it lasted, I should say. But yeah, like, it was really frustrating when I just couldn't. There was no support for Saturn. I was like, I'm just getting into this console. And now they're just like closing up shop, you know? It's like, I really wish that I had been there from the beginning, you know? It's just so I could have at least enjoyed the good times.
Yeah, so I didn't get a Dreamcast until I think the late 2000s. So yeah, it was all new to me at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got mine Christmas '99. Mom got it for me for Christmas.
Nice.
I got mine around 2002.
A lot, you know, better than the Saturn in the US.
Oh, you're not driving anymore, are you, Chrono?
No, I'm cleaning up.
I can turn up your volume now.
Shop.
There you go. Now you're up to 100.
I was saying the Dreamcast marketing on launch, they put a lot of effort into making sure that they didn't botch that one. So it had good sales numbers initially.
I definitely remember the marketing campaign around that. I wasn't going to buy into it after, you know, what happened with Saturn. So
yeah. Honestly though, like, when I saw, it was hard to ignore the Dreamcast when you saw like the amazing lineup of launch games, and you saw stuff like NFL 2K, which like looked like a TV broadcast, and it was just like, I mean, granted, it doesn't really look like it now, but like at that time it was mind-blowing. At the time it was mind-blowing. They were using mocap, they were using like depth of field stuff. You just didn't see that in games up to that point, and so it was like, really did trick your brain, you know, into thinking that, you know, walking past a display window, that you were watching like a broadcast, and then you're like, wait, that's a video game? Wow. Mind blown.
And the fighting game community really gravitated towards the Dreamcast too, because it just had pretty much one-to-one ports.
Oh yeah.
For tournaments and such.
Ironically though, you'd have to get an arcade stick to be able to, you know, it didn't have like a good pad. I mean, granted, all those folks were probably going to play with arcade sticks anyway. But I mean, that was the wonderful thing about Genesis and Saturn, is you always had a really good control pad if you did want to play fighting games with the control pad. You could, you know, with the 6 button. See you, Tom. What are you up to, Nick? You have your mic muted. Are you working? I don't know if he's working or...
Walking the dog.
Walking the dog.
I'm just walking the dog and figured I'd listen in on some hype Saturn Sega general chat going on. Are you like, is this like a localized Discord stream, or are you like, am I out with the masses?
You are. You're on live air.
Nice.
Nice. Walking the dog. Actually, that's
hello world.
That's a little nostalgic, because back in the pandemic, I think one of the first streams that I did during the pandemic was like a stream where Nick was walking the dog.
This was like,
some things never change.
Right, no, they don't. I always enjoy jumping in on these while walking the dog. It's just nice. It's like a little phone call.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I remember that day because it was the middle of winter. I was still living in Fargo, and anytime I spoke up, the sound of like horrifying loud winter wind would just right into the mic if I stepped into like the wrong wind tunnel, you know?
Yeah.
That was great. It's no longer. I'm no longer there, and it is not winter where I am.
Oh yeah, so, how's the weather today, where you are?
It's great, dude.
Nice.
It's like, I think it's like, I want to say upper 60s, lower 70s.
Perfect.
Some people might call this like cold and complain about it. I'm like out here in a t-shirt and just living it up. Like this is great, you know.
I mean, I'm from being from Reno. It may not be Fargo, but I mean, we would still have winter in May. We'd still have winter in May, you know. We would still
exactly, yeah. And, okay, you've been through it then.
Yeah, below zero in the winter time.
Right.
Black ice everywhere. You know, so like being in San Diego or anywhere else, pretty much, I'm like t-shirt and shorts, you know. And people are like, "You're crazy."
No, that was me all winter in Virginia, because like the coldest it got was like in the 40s, maybe 30s at night. I think it got below freezing like maybe once.
You're like a Viking.
I don't even remember.
You're like a Viking. You just get used to it.
Pretty much. Yeah, I just, I spent so much time up north. I lived in between Minnesota and North Dakota for, the majority of my life up to this point. So it was just like, yeah, like that was nothing. Like 40-degree winter was like, this is springtime, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
The only
outside.
time I get cold is if I walk on the pier and it's really windy on the ocean.
Right.
Like, then it's just like wind chill factor.
The ocean air, the ocean wind, like it's a little more.
It's
I don't know
wet.
if it's wetter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's more moist to it. Like the wind up in Fargo is just dry. Like they say in Arizona, oh, it's a dry heat. It's no big deal. That's kind of how it is up in like the Great Plains. It's like a dry cold. If it's super windy, then you definitely feel, how painful it is to be outside in negative 30 degrees. But if there's no wind at all, and it's just that dry, cold air with nothing blowing at you, like it honestly isn't that bad. Cool. So it's the wind that gets you, as they say up there, every winter, multiple times every winter. So yeah, down here it's nothing. Yeah, absolutely nothing.
It's upper 50s.
Great.
Here in Michigan.
Nice. Yeah, that's good for Michigan. That's balmy.
Yeah, I love it.
Low 60s here. This is like the coolest May that I can remember in a long time. I'm not complaining either. I'm not looking forward to the dog days of summer, but it's
same.
The coolest May that I can remember.
So Nick, assuming you're still going in chronological order, what ends up being next after Rally?
High Velocity Mountain Racing Challenge, which is the Western localization of Tolga King.
Cave, right?
Cave, that's right.
Nice.
The people that made shmups, people known for making shmups when they started making any video game at all, just as a company. They started the Donpachi series, and alongside Donpachi, they started making racing games.
Two racing games back to back.
Yeah. And they made it.
Didn't they make Steep Slope Sliders too?
They did.
They did, yes. They made Steep Slope Sliders, and they made other Toga games. Like there was one at least one that only came out on PS1.
There was also a Noodle Delivery.
Yes, I was about to say that.
That's the real classic that they're known for, right?
Yeah.
That's the big one.
That game is better than it really should be.
It goes hard.
It's
It goes harder than it should, right?
Yeah, no, it's smaller. That's one of those like Death Crimson type games for the Saturn that like everybody needs to play, even though it's objectively horrible.
I mean, but
sold high
I don't
velocity.
even think it's horrible, man. I like it. I really love it. Like Death
The
Crimson,
Yakisoba delivery game or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Deli Soba Deluxe is good.
Deli Soba.
Deli Soba Deluxe.
Yeah, that's a good game. It feels a little like Road Rash, honestly.
It does. Oh, it totally does.
Yes, absolutely.
The way the moped or whatever handles feels a little like Road Rash.
And when I say objectively bad, I don't mean like actually, 2 out of 10 or anything. It's just it's not Gran Turismo, right? Like it's not up there, but it's definitely one of those games that is a good time. It's a good time for its own reasons. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's a good arcade. It's a good arcade racing game. Like I like it. It's short though.
Very, very short.
Because it was meant to be played on a game show, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, High Velocity's good. Like, it's the very first racing game that Cave made. It was made in like early '95, released in late '95.
Yeah, I'm interested.
It controls decently well, and the graphics on it are like pretty close to being where Sega Rally was at, and they both came out at around the same time. And this was like a third party. This wasn't, first party, directly at Sega in their trenches. This was just some third party just getting going.
Exactly.
And they managed to squeeze out some really good 3D graphics for 1995 for being a third party that was just starting out as a company. Like, it's kind of impressive, honestly, that they were able to pull that off. So, some of the aspects of the game are a little obtuse, though. Like, for example, the way you switch between manual and automatic transmission in a traditional racing game, and even up to this point, the traditional way to have that was it's an option you select before the race begins, and you're locked in that transmission mode during the entire race. The way it works in High Velocity / Toge King is there are 2 acceleration buttons. One acceleration button puts you in manual transmission, and then the other acceleration button hot swaps you to automatic transmission, like mid-race. You can go between manual and automatic, like back and forth the entire race all the time. It's wild. It's really
that's
wacky.
crazy.
And then there's a brake button, and there's also an emergency brake in the game, like an e-brake that you would use to drift. Typically in other racing games that have an e-brake, that is a different button. But in High Velocity, the standard brakes are when you press the brake button by itself, but it turns into an e-brake if you hit the brake button while also pushing an acceleration button, one of the 2 manual or automatic accelerator buttons. That hot swaps it to being an e-brake button. Does that make sense? It's weird.
Yeah, that does sound weird.
I don't know why they did it that way, but like, you start playing the game, you wonder why you're not shifting gears or why you have to shift gears. You can't figure out how to switch transmissions in the menus and all that. You're like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, why are the brakes so weird? But then once you like figure it out and you like read the manual and you're like, okay, this is how they have this wacky control system, you kind of get used to it and then you kind of like it. It's weird. And you're like, why don't other games do this? This is nice. I like it. You get used to it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird setup. It's probably a good thing that did not become normal. Those should all be. That shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, but you do get used to it. I also find that game is a way better with the racing wheel than any other controller. Even better than like if you were to try to use the 3D pad with it. Yeah, the D-pad controls are okay, but like
that's good to hear.
You cannot do well in the game without analog controls, in my opinion.
That's not one that I've tried
really
with the racing wheel.
D-pad. You should try it with the racing wheel.
I will. I definitely will.
And then read up on the controls so that you will know why it's being weird.
Okay,
so that you understand what to press.
Yeah, I always like to have more games to suggest to folks for, the racing wheel. So it's good to hear that, that's one that you can add to the list of games that are actually good with the wheel.
Yeah, Togeking / High Velocity, in my opinion, is better played with the racing wheel. But it's not like it wouldn't be the first game I'd recommend someone who has a racing wheel to play.
But how do you feel about Sega Rally with the racing wheel?
It sucks.
Yeah, right? Okay,
Dude,
so
I don't know. This is an opinionated thing that people are back and forth on. Obviously, the game itself is fantastic. It's one of the best to ever come out on the console.
Yeah.
And they spent, and this is covered in the video that I'm working on, they spent like the entire development timeline tweaking the D-pad steering to make sure that it was like just right to get the warmth and the feel of it to where it's sort of doing everything that you need it to do, even though despite it not being an analog wheel, despite it not being an analog form of control.
Right.
So that if you tap it a little bit, it steers you a little bit. If you like hold it down, for a certain amount of milliseconds, you're trying to crank it to get past a hairpin. Things like that. It just the D-pad kind of knows what you're trying to do really well in Sega Rally. More so than I think in most 5th gen racing games I played with D-pad steering.
Absolutely.
They tweaked it so well that it became better than the analog steering, which I don't think properly implemented in Sega Rally on the Saturn. Some people swear by it, like Sam I Am, a guy who I worked with on the Virtua Cop video, probably more well known for starting and still working on a Princess Crown patch. He and I talked about Rally, and just for those unaware, like he's got a lot of stuff going on in his personal life. So that's why the Princess Crown patch still isn't out yet. But that's aside the point. He like swears and lives by the racing wheel at Sega Rally. He's telling me, Nick, listen, you need to get used to the racing wheel. It is better. You are wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to play with the racing wheel. And there are other people who say the same thing. And then there's other people I've talked to who are like, no, Nick, you're right. The wheel's bullshit in Rally. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, there's that United Kingdom video game show from the 90s, Bad Influence.
Right.
They did a segment where they go over all the Saturn peripherals, the various accessories that make it into a Barbie console, as the kids say. And they had this guy named Rhino on the show.
Rhino, yeah.
Rhino. He's like this huge, just buffed out dude. Like he looks like he could, pick up a golf cart and throw it in the ocean, right? Like, big dude. And but he's got like this very calm, well-mannered British accent and voice. Like he's
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Oh, this game's just great. I love it.
This game's
and
great.
Then he's sitting there with the arcade wheel and playing Saturn Rally. And this guy's he's so huge and his arms are so massive, and he makes this like steering wheel look like a tiny children's toy, right? Like it's just because he's massive. And he's sitting there and he's going like, yeah, I don't really like the racing wheel controls. It's not very good. The D-pad's better,
It is. But I mean, what about the analog pad? It's like Joe swears by that.
Same problem. It's the same
problem, right? Yeah, that's how I feel.
I have the same issues with it. Yeah, the 3D controller is perhaps worse than using the wheel in Rally. It's just not very good.
Even on on Circuit Edition, or what was the later
Plus.
Japanese one that's
Plus.
Plus was like tuned for.
I think they improved it in Plus because the original release of Saturn Rally was pre-3D controller.
Right.
So what the 3D controller is doing in vanilla Saturn Rally is it's just trying to emulate the racing wheel.
Right.
It's emulating the racing wheel, and the racing wheel was already bad. And the 3D pad is a worse version of the racing wheel. For racing games, that is.
Right.
So it's just even worse. Like trying to play it with a 3D pad. I do think they did try to improve the analog steering in Plus. I read that they did that. I don't know how that affects 3D pad performance in Plus, but yeah, it's supposed to be a little better at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They just did such a good job with tweaking the D-pad steering, and I just got so used to it that I cannot play that game without the D-pad steering.
Yeah.
I can't.
I agree.
Just can't do it.
I'm exact same. Like it has to be digital.
You can even like nail the wall hit tech with the D-pad on Saturn Rally pretty competently. For those who are unaware, there's a speedrun strat in Sega Rally that I think this is across both arcade and Saturn Rally, but it definitely works in Saturn Rally, where when you get to the forced hairpin, you're driving in manual and you slam the outer wall at just the right angle, and then crank the wheel right all the way, shifting down into first gear at just the right moment.
Right.
It will knock you into just the correct direction past the hairpin and save you like 1 or 2 entire seconds on the traditional vanilla way of going around the hairpin. This wall hit works in 1 or 2 spots on the mountain track, but it's more commonly used at the hairpin and forest. You can't really use it at the hairpin and mountain, but there's still some spots in mountain where like you can kind of use it. So yeah, it's funky. But yeah, you can do that with the D-pad totally, and it works just fine. So.
So Nick, earlier on in the stream, I was talking about trying to speak into existence a get-together for the 30th anniversary of the U.S. launch next year.
Oh yeah.
Would you be consider like coming to San Diego and meeting up with a bunch of Saturn heads for a weekend?
Yeah, I'd be down for that. That'd be cool. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like there's plenty of time to plan. So with 1 entire year to fit that into a schedule, yeah, I'd be super down for that. How many people are like committed to going, or is this just kind of still in like the early planning stages?
He just mentioned it, but it's definitely something to talk about and see if we could make it a thing. I'm curious, Chrono. What were the Southern California, the SoCal Gaming Expo?
I was trying to co-op a weekend where people would be in town, maybe for San Diego Comic-Con or something, and they were just like, well, oh, hey, the Saturn 30th anniversary thing's going on, 10 minutes away. Let's check that out too.
Well, Comic-Con is what in I forget when.
July.
July.
July
right?
next year.
Yeah.
July next year.
Right. And if we want to do something for the anniversary, we're talking about May. So, I mean, when is the SoCal Gaming Expo, though? Is that closer to... I can't remember if it's in March or if it's in April.
I'd have to look it up later, but definitely, yeah. I mean, this is exploratory. We should definitely get a little committee going just to bandy out ideas about logistics and what's feasible for people.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot to mention, unrelated to this, but when Sam, and I were talking about Saturn Rally, he was talking about how he got his kids into it. And they're like really good at it now. They're getting like good times and time attack and everything, but these are like 4 or 5-year-old kids.
That's awesome.
They're just like totally nailing Sega Rally right now, which is great. So raising them right.
That is raising them right.
I gotta hop off, but thank you for the stream, Dave.
Yeah, for sure. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers
How's
out there.
Pinball? I'm just listening. I can't really see what you're...
I'm getting worse the longer I stream, to be honest with you. But I'm still trying to get an idea of like what I need to do on this board to be successful. The funny thing is, it's like I'm scoring in the millions and everyone else is scoring in the billions in our community, so I haven't really figured it out.
Oh shit,
I'm gonna
somebody from Germany.
I gotta take a crack at it just to get on the board, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be getting any top scores on it.
Yeah, I just can't. I keep draining right down the middle, like that's the part where it's like unavoidable, where it goes like right between the flippers. I mean, most of the time I'm able to catch it, but it's happened a lot.
You gotta nudge. You gotta nudge, man.
You gotta nudge.
Just like at least do a double nudge when you think it's gonna go straight down the middle, and you'll be able to get it onto one flipper or the other depending on which way you nudge.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. I will take that. Oh, so there was a great example of it if I had just done it. So you want to nudge?
So if you like physically pick up your Sega Saturn and nudge it, does that touch the table in the game? Okay. Good
especially like when it's going nice and slow down the middle, and it's very obvious this thing is going to drain. Like you can, like 2 quick nudges and it'll go to one side or the other, and you're safe.
I gotcha. Okay. See,
I'm gonna jump off. The dog walk has ended.
All
so
right.
I'll see you guys later.
Catch you later.
Later.
Bye-bye.
I'll get
Happy
you those.
pinballing.
I'll get you those lines. Okay, Nick.
Hell yeah. Right on. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, whenever you're able to get them to me.
No problem.
But yeah, talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little things you can do with nudging in pinball games. I forget if this lets you do post transfers or not. I don't think that's possible in this game. Like, you know how I was telling you earlier, you could, like, if you have a multi-ball going, a good strategy is to like corral the balls, like 2 of the 3 balls on one flipper, and just keep them there for a while if you can. If the game lets you do post transferring, there's ways to nudge the balls off of that flipper that you have them corralled on onto the other flipper if you need to make a shot that you can only make from the other flipper. You know, it.
Right.
I forget if that's a thing that's possible in the Kaze pinball engine or not. So. But you can definitely do it with some other digital pinball games. And you can do it on any real pinball table too.
Saturn members, have you tried the Technosoft pinball game on the Saturn? Because that one usually seems to go for about $40 to $60 too.
The Commuting, yeah, I have that actually.
Yeah, fantastic pinball, I think. Kind of.
Yeah, I played it before.
You talking about like the anime one, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. I like more of a static playfield, like the way they have it set up here, than the one that scrolls vertically. But you know, the more I play ones that are set up that way, the more that I do kind of like them. Like I've put a lot of time into what's the series that came out recently from that small dev? Xenotilt's his new game. What was his last game though? I forget. But I played the crap out of that, and that's really good. That also does the vertical table movement. So, you know, it is possible to get used to it over time.
Well, just to let the audience know, when you're talking about the vertical movement, you're talking like Sonic Spinball style, right? Where it goes
like different layers of.
Yeah, because the table is so tall that it needs to scroll up and follow your balls. Oh well, that sounded wrong.
Yeah, right. Follow your balls.
Where's Pat when you need him? Right.
Oh, I know, right? Oh, Pat would. Yeah, the sexual innuendos would be flying. Pat was here. He never misses an opportunity.
All in the hips.
There you go.
I'm sure he'd give new meaning to the nudging.
Oh yeah, nudging.
Balls.
Yeah, you'd be like, you need to nudge my balls.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of sucks with the whole playfield following, you know, shifting, scrolling vertically is like when you have a multi-ball going and you kind of want to concentrate on a certain ball, and then the screen scrolling up to follow a different one. That always throws me.
Yeah. I feel like I'm slowly getting the hang of this, but it doesn't. I haven't improved my score at all.
You're not scoring with your balls.
I'm not scoring with my balls.
Handle them with care.
Wasn't there a game called Balls?
Yeah, Balls 3D.
Yes.
Oh, Balls 3D, yeah.
Yeah, which was not a 3D game, but they would like you to believe that it was. I think I even got a port to the 3DO, I think.
Oh god.
It was definitely on SNES and Genesis. But I think it may have gotten a 3DO port. Sons of Mars. Come on.
I remember elementary school, my friend JC, he had the 3DO. That was huge.
Oh yeah.
He had the Way of the Warrior and the Twisted Game Show. Man,
in elementary school?
Yeah.
This kid, man, what
yeah, he has some rich parents.
I guess.
Yeah, I was always impressed with. I knew another kid who had a the Jaguar. I wasn't so much impressed by that because Jaguar never did anything for me. None of the games really attracted me much.
My childhood.
I only had the Jaguar for about 2 months, but I could never get used to the controller. It was just didn't really feel that comfortable in the hand.
Yeah, that behemoth. It's like a TV remote or something.
Ah, it drained right in the center. It happened so fast. I couldn't nudge in time. Oh well. What was the childhood memory, Kay?
Oh, of the 3DO.
Yeah.
There was a game store in early 90s called Electro Games Plus out at the Pearl Ridge Shopping Center. And it was a building that was separated from the rest of the mall, which was interesting in and of itself. And this was the time period of Pogs. So
Pogs.
They had their business card Pog was of Ryu and Ken throwing Hadoukens at each other. And they prominently displayed a 3DO with was it like Star Control?
Oh yeah.
Or whatever, like a space game.
Our Control, yeah.
No one could afford that thing, but they also had a Neo Geo Gold on display that you could play around that same time period.
Sony Ninja. That's another Way of the Warrior,
oh yeah,
terrible.
Not great. Well, that wasn't Way of the Warrior was Naughty Dog, right?
Yeah, Naughty Dog software.
Cosby Ninja, I think, was not. it was another company.
I don't know why, but I liked Way of the Warrior. What Austin from Gameplay and Talk, I really grind his gears when I talk about that game because he just hates it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was because I played it as a kid and it has some sort of nostalgic value to me, but I don't know. And I mean, I like the White Zombie soundtrack on it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these games had the ability to be a lot more impressive back then, just because of the time that they were released. And nostalgia definitely is a tricky thing. Although there are those games that have just remained good over time, you know, and are still good today, you know. So
yeah,
like Tetris. Tetris is always great. It just always will be. It's such a solidly simple but, you know, well-made game.
Well, hell, I mean, I found this old website this guy made on Way of the Warrior, and he has all this like elaborate information about the game and the combos and the systems, and he makes it sound like it's actually a pretty, like, you know, elaborate. thing, which I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but interesting nonetheless. Just to find a detailed site like that regarding such a niche game like Holy Warrior. God, I played MK Trilogy on Saturn with the SHIRO. Man, holy shit, the AI on that is fucking insane. I played medium, got my ass kicked. I put it on super easy, got my ass kicked, and then I put it on super hard, and I beat it.
Which one is that?
MK Trilogy.
Oh, MK Trilogy, yeah.
I was for sure the very hard was gonna just knock my teeth in, and I beat the. But I am not a fighters. I just mash the keys and hope something happens. I don't have any rhyme or reason to.
Oh yeah, well that's only gonna get you so far.
Yeah.
You gotta block. You gotta learn how to parry. You gotta learn how to at least master the moves of one character, you know, and understand, you know, when to do certain moves in order to counter.
Yeah, and all my friends growing up love fighters.
Yeah. Well, fighters were just popular in general in the 90s.
Yeah. Remember Pit Fighter on the Genesis. That was another with the digitized kind of Mortal Kombat like graphics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I recall Pit Fighter being very prominent or popular in the arcades when I was a kid. It was like every arcade had a Pit Fighter cabinet.
Yeah, I think so.
In it.
I never played it in the arcades, but yeah. Yeah, I love going to the. There was a Little Caesars that had a play area, and then they had an arcade room. I would just waste quarters on the X-Men arcade game and the Simpsons arcade game. Love those.
I'm gonna need to drop off as soon as I lose here because the laundry just beeped. It finished. So I'm gonna have to change that out.
Right on. That was good hanging out.
Just a warning to everyone.
Happy Saturn Day, everybody.
Yeah.
You gotta get that washer dryer combo that is all in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw it into one thing and.
Well, I mean, it's the dryer just the dryer just beeped, so that's done, and now what's in the wash needs to be moved out into the dryer, you know, and then I have to put something else new into the washer.
This is the single unit that does everything.
Really?
One, yeah, you pop it into one container and it just washes and then dries. So there's no swapping.
What will they think of next? Does it even go to your bedroom and grab the other dirty laundry? No, I'm just kidding. But
it folds it for you afterwards.
It folds it for you? Oh my god, that sounds like a dream come true.
Well, there's no vent on this thing, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It drives via heat pump.
Thanks everybody for joining me.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy Saturn Day, happy May 11th, surprise launch day, 29th anniversary of Saturn, or at least in the West. I'll try to get, Dan wanted me to publish that video and like an article on the website. I'll try to get that done. I have several other things I have to do today, including those lines for Nick, but But yeah, no, it was fun. And until next time, this has been SaturnDave reminding you to go play your PlayStation. PlayStation, no.
Saturn.
Play your Saturn. Forget PlayStation. Go play your Saturn. And partake in this monthly challenge. The month of May is Digital Pinball, Last Gladiators, and Necronomicon. So get into the SHIRO Discord and submit your submit your score. And I'm sure you can do better than I did. But yeah, until next time, just reminding you to play your Sega Saturn. And I'll catch you later.
Later, all.
Later.